So Konni Burton no longer serves us in the Senate. Hello, District 10 voters. Thanks a lot for that. But serves us through the Texan.news. The Texan.news. And people ask me all the time, hey, what do you look at website-wise? What are your sources? This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful source for all kinds of news that people care about. And the locomotive behind all of it is former, still hurts me to say that, State Senator Konni Burton. Hi, Konni. Welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing very good, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on.
I want to dive right into the project, but it's weird to have a session and you not in it.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, there was a huge veto wave in this last election, and it just wreaked havoc on down-ballot elections. And we all know that, and, that's the way it goes sometimes, and that's fine. I, got into this knowing that you can win or you could lose. And so, but that's okay, because life takes you different places, and I'm more than happy now to be doing this venture, running this operation called the Texan.news.
So where did the idea arise?
So really, this is kind of the brainchild of my husband. While I've been a senator for the last 4 years, and then before that an activist, we certainly talk about this all the time, as many of us on the right do, right? We're very frustrated with the media. But my husband has been very interested in the business models of the media. So he's been doing a lot of thinking on this over the years, and certainly we've talked about it. And, he's always wondered, why hasn't anybody stepped into this void that is so much there in a state as large as Texas? And, we've always kind of bemoaned that. And then when the election went the way that it did, we sat down and we said, if nobody else is doing it, we need to do this. And so, we pulled my husband and I have invested heavily in starting this operation. We decided to go for it. We put down a business plan. We've hired reporters and editor and operations director, and we've got an office here in Austin, and we have put together what I think is phenomenal. And again, like I mentioned, a void that is in Texas with the news media.
Yep. So it's funny. So let's define that void. The national media tilts leftward. In Texas, a conservative state, there are a lot of statewide news sites. Some lean left, some shoot fairly equal opportunity. But if you ask me to list of sort of conservative Texas news sites, it's a pretty short list.
Absolutely. And what I want to caution everybody on, what we say is we're going to present facts. We're going to be objective, but we're not going to be hostile to the worldview of Texans. And I think those of us on the right understand that. What we're going to present the facts on each story so that people can decide on their own. But we're not going to, immediately, which you get in a lot of articles, people on the right are portrayed as, racist, homophobe, all the names, right? Hater, in sometimes very subliminal ways because they have a different viewpoint. We are not going to do that because it's offensive to Texans. And again, we have a worldview that we know is very different. We approach, say, border security from the perspective of the safety of Texans. There's nothing wrong with that. And so many times a story will come out and you're led to believe that if you look at it from that perspective, you must be racist, right? So I think the media over time is becoming more and more hostile to the worldview of Texans, and we are not that. And so while we unabashedly say we are right of center, we also think it's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when they read our content because it's quality and it presents the facts, and we just want them to make up their own minds based on the facts.
And if you hop to the Texan.news, there is a story about there's Chip Roy laying out some policy views at a town hall, a wonderful tribute to Dallas County GOP Chair Missy Shorey and her recent passing, the mental health bill advancing in the House and Senate amid privacy concerns, the Julian Castro, his role in the Easter worshiper hashtag, where people hesitated to call Christians Christians. The animosity toward Chick-fil-A at the San Antonio airport is now filtering into the mayor's race down there. And just a big overview on Senate Bill 2, the whole property tax thing. So it's a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. And we also have a studio set up in our office. We've already done a podcast. We did a podcast with Congressman Roy. We've got podcasts lined up. We're going to be doing live interviews as well. We're going to be a multimedia type organization. I think people are going to enjoy and be willing to pay for this. Here's another thing, Mark, about our business model. We are not paid for. We're not a nonprofit like some of the, like a statewide news organization such as the Tribune. We're not funded by advertisers, which we think create a lot of clickbait, right? And it's why you get more and more and more sensational headlines that sometimes don't even equate to what's in the content at all. So not only are we not clickbait, when you pull up an article on our site, it is clean and it is content, and that's what it is. And we are paid for by our subscribers. And so therefore, we think we're going to be a very agile business model that can, move quickly to what our readers are interested in, not what, say, nonprofit donors are interested in or what advertisers are interested in, right? We are going to be focused on the pocketbooks of Texans. And I think that's what's important.
And your gamble here is that enough people will find that desirable at $7.50 a month that it all works out great for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's work our way through a couple of things that you guys have been doing. I am intrigued by Chip Roy. A lot of people view him as kind of a Ted Cruz starter kit, which is always a good thing. And yet you just did a podcast with him, so I just want to kind of get y'all's vibe. The last thing I remember Chip doing was not going along with President Trump's designation of the border as an emergency. So that kind of he's an independent, a free spirit, maverick, whatever. But what's your take on Congressman Roy down there? It's District 21. Hill Country used to be Lamar Smith's.
Yeah, so I have known Chip Roy for many years. You are correct. I met him originally back in the day when Ted Cruz was just thinking about running for Senate. I met Chip. And, Chip was also Rick Perry. Gosh, I can't remember right now what he served for Rick Perry, but he was also with him. What Chip brings to the table is, he is a unabashed principled conservative. And, he believes in, limited government, particularly, which I love, which I believe in so much, and we all should, the 10th Amendment, in that, the states should be dealing with all of these issues. The federal government really should be dealing with very few issues, border security, one of them, and regardless of, and there's obviously different viewpoints on how that should be handled. But that's what I know Chip Roy to be, a very principled conservative that really, truly wants limited government, particularly at the federal level, so that we can keep all these issues that really need to be debated, and can be at the state level, where more people from the state can. I've always said this too. People can't really get a hold of their congressman or their U.S. senator that easily, right? But you can your Texas state rep or your Texas state senator, and therefore that's why all of these arguments on all of these issues should be left at the state level, not the federal level. So I know Chip very much, Congressman Roy very much is that kind of a representative. And, I applaud him for that.
Konni Burton's with us, former state senator, now founder of TheTexan.news. Anybody after Joe Straus would have been great. But what's your 60-second take on new House Speaker Dennis Bonnen?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm still watching and listening. I will tell you less specifically on Speaker Bonnen is just the whole session as a whole. We need conservatives. We need the Republicans to step up and give Texans real property tax relief. And regardless of why that isn't coming to fruition yet, I don't know. I'm leaving it alone. I'm letting them do their work. But whoever can make that happen, whether it's Speaker Bonin or Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick or the governor, we need that to happen, or 2020 is not going to be pretty for Republicans in the state of Texas.
I think you're right, and I've got a theory that I'll float by you, and that is that some otherwise reliable conservatives are hearing from voters who are listening to city officials and county officials who are whining and crying and throwing like outgoing, probably thank God, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings about you won't have cops, you'll never fill a pothole again. Those scare tactics are resonating.
Absolutely, and it should not. And I want to tell you another thing, and sorry for the plug here, but those are the kinds of issues that we want to deal with in the Texan. That's the kind of thing. I am tired of these scare tactics. We need facts, and I get so tired of elected officials at any level immediately going to the knee jerk. Oh my God, the sky's going to fall if we don't do this or we do this. And so those are the kinds of things that we're going to report about. Is that how these locally elected officials are screaming that the sky is going to fall? And at the end of the day, Mark, what they want is big government at whatever level they're in, right? What they are asking for is to continue spending people's dollars even more. While I hear constantly from people who are like, I can't live in my home anymore because I'm getting taxed out of it. Now, how can an elected official sit around and say, oh my gosh, we can't hire police officers while somebody that lives within their city has to sell their home because they can't afford it? There is a disconnect there, and these are the kinds of things that we're going to get the facts out about so that Texans can make decisions at the voting booth, whether it's local, state, or federal.
Brand new website is thetexan.news. Thetexan.news. The founder is former State Senator Konni Burton. Our wish for you is that everybody shell out the $750 and make this an enormously successful proposition. However, will that leave you time to consider, running again?
Right now, this is my focus. Right now, get this venture up and going and off the ground. I am not saying I'm not going to run again. I'm not saying that I am going to run again. And that's just that might be a line by politicians, but it's the truth.
It really is. And your best phraseology is right now I'm not thinking about this, meaning you could start thinking about it anytime you wish.
Exactly.
At the very beginning.
I thought that I'd have this kind of company. So you never know where life takes you.
Who knew? Exactly right. Going back to the very beginning, last thing, you nailed it exactly correctly. And I think there are a lot of people who can say this, from congressmen like Pete Sessions to various state level and county level folks. Texas is not making a huge leftward lurch. This was Beto. You walked into the buzzsaw. It was your dumb luck. So is it satisfying or extra frustrating to see him completely melt down at the national level?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't personally bother me at all. And I think that's probably why I was a good person to run. These kinds of things, it is what it is in politics.
Yeah.
I'm a big girl. And so I don't have any kind of sour grapes or anything like that. You run your race, you lose, you move on. And so I don't really sit here and hold any kind of grudge against Beto. I do, though, I will tell you from a political standpoint, I don't want his issues, what he believes in, to gain any more traction. So for that, from that perspective, yeah, I love that he's not doing well. But we've got Bernie out there that's just as bad. So I'm more about the issues than holding grudges and that kind of thing. I want limited government, free market, personal liberty issues to flourish, and not just the opposite.
These are the kinds of things you will find in the pages of The Texan, thetexan.news, thetexan.news. Konni, best of luck. Let's talk every once in a while. And listen, you got folks writing. Glad to welcome them as guests because you're doing good work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. You've always been a friend to me, and I appreciate it very much.
It's my great joy, and that continues no matter what. Konni Burton, founder of The Texan, thetexan.news.